All right, welcome back. Today we're going to try a new series, and guess what? Strangely enough, it's something I've never done before. So we're going to take a look at Adobe Lightroom Classic. Now, Classic doesn't mean it's an old version. It's just the desktop or laptop computer version of Adobe Lightroom. Then we have Adobe Lightroom, which was made for tablets and phones. Now, what we're going to focus on is Adobe Lightroom Classic, and then we're going to go into Adobe Photoshop. I know that sounds strange that I've never done that, but usually I'm going from Adobe Camera Raw to Adobe Photoshop. Now, the good part about this is Adobe Camera Raw and the Develop module inside of Adobe Lightroom Classic, it's the same. So once you learn how to do one, you can learn how to do the other because they are exactly the same. They are raw processors. So a raw processor is when you just take your raw file, which is just a generic capture from your camera, and then you process it. And you need a specific program to do that. So you can't actually edit a raw file inside of Adobe Photoshop. So we need some sort of raw processor, and in this case, we're using Adobe Lightroom Classic. I know that's complicated, don't worry about it. It's really, really easy. So I use these tutorials for two set of circumstances. One, to teach everybody out there on YouTube, and I also use these for supplemental material for the classes that I teach. So if you're looking for a video tutorial that's just gonna quickly show you how to do something, this is probably not gonna be the series for you. If you're looking for a video series that's really gonna show you how to do this step by step so you can learn how to use these programs, this is what you're gonna wanna watch. So today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with Adobe Lightroom Classic. I'm going to go over some just basic preferences and things you need to do when you set this up. I'm going to give you a little hints and understanding on the cataloging system because it can be confusing and it can mess things up if you do certain things. And then I'm going to show you the start of my workflow, which is going to be the import and ingest from a memory card to the computer. So I hope you enjoy this series. So let's swing on over here to the computer and get started with Adobe Lightroom Classic. All right, so you can see up here we have Lightroom Classic, and this is the program that we're going to be using here. We have nothing on here because we haven't imported anything. Your screen should be black, and this is the way it should look once you open up the program. Now, one of the key features that is inside of a Lightroom Classic is cataloging. And cataloging is simply a way for the program to easily help you find and organize all of your images. That sounds great. However, it can cause problems if you do certain things. So one of those certain things is if you move files. So if you save your files to the internal hard drive of your computer, which I never suggest you do, and then you catalog everything during the import, and then you move them, Lightroom's not going to be able to find them because you've changed the location, or in this case, what we call the path of where the location is. So what we need to do is make sure we follow some guidelines when working with the program because it can cause issues. So when you install Lightroom Classic, it automatically loads a catalog onto your computer. And you can see right here, it's called Lightroom Catalog. Usually I'm on a Mac. I think it does it in the pictures folder. All right, but you can create a new catalog. You could simply come up here and go new catalog. I'm not going to do that because I don't need to create one. But you can create that catalog anywhere you'd like. I use this a lot in school, but I have the students save that catalog on an external hard drive. That allows them to come in at any time and use their own catalog throughout the semester, which makes things really easy. The bad thing about cataloging is people like me that shoot a lot of photos and I'm constantly moving my folders around. It's not really benefiting me at all because I'm not using any of the catalog or the collections of the ways to search and find things. That's okay with me. It really depends on what you want. You're going to find that Lightroom Classic, the cataloging, you're either going to love it or hate it, all right? So if you do move your images around and your catalog isn't happy, it's really easy to kind of clear the catalog and start over again. So it's not the end of the world, but it's something that you need to pay attention to because if you do move things, it gives you a little exclamation mark and it's going to cause issues. The first thing we're going to do with any Adobe program is actually go into the preferences. So we're going to go up here. This is a Mac. Everything I do is on a Mac. I don't know if the preferences are in the exact same location for a PC because I've never used a PC in 30 plus years. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click that and bring this up. Can we make this bigger? No, this is as big as we're going to get it. So we're going to click on General right here. I'm going to quickly go through this stuff. Some items I'm going to talk about. Other items I'm just going to briefly go over. It's not really important. Just leave it as a default. So most everything that you see here is sort of a default on the computer. Right here where it says treat JPEG files next to RAW files separately. So if you shoot JPEG and RAW and you want to treat them separately, meaning it won't stack them. So what will happen is you'll see down here your thumbnails and it will stack the JPEG and the RAW file right on top of each other. So you'll really only see one of them even though there's two. If you want them to be separated, you select that. All right, everything else I'm just gonna go ahead and leave as is. So if you wanna add some sounds from when it does stuff, add your sound, I don't care. So down here you can add sounds for importing and doing things. I'm just gonna leave mine as is. I'm gonna go to the presets. So right here I've got the Adobe default. You can also go to the camera settings. I'm gonna use Adobe. All right, nothing else here I'm gonna change. So we're gonna go to external editing. So what version of Photoshop am I gonna use? I'm gonna use Photoshop. If it doesn't have this here, you just need to select it. So you can click on that and select it. The file format that I want to use is PSD, which is the Photoshop format, but you could pick TIFF if you'd like to there. Next, we have color space. I use Adobe RGB or Adobe 1998. Otherwise, you can click on this and choose any of those four that we use there. If you don't understand about color spaces, you're going to hear a lot about it. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and click Adobe because that's what I'd use. Right here we have bit depth. You want to select 16-bit. An 8-bit image, just think of this, it only has 256 shades of gray, and 16-bit comes in about 65,400 shades of gray. So you can tell that's a whole lot more data. Does that mean that you actually get that much? No, because no camera's shooting 16-bit. That is something for later. Next we have resolution. I have mine at 300 pixels per inch. I think the default might be 240, I'm not sure. But most printers that I use print at 300, so I just set the resolution as that. Right here we have for an external editor. So if I use something else other than Photoshop, I could easily select that here and load that in, all right? So that's pretty much good. So we're gonna go over here to file handling. So next we have right here, it says import is a DNG. So you can actually take a Canon, a Nikon, a Sony RAW file and convert it over to Adobe's RAW file, which is DNG, which stands for digital negative. Years ago, Adobe wanted everybody to use DNG and nobody wanted to use just a universal one. So we have to deal with all these different RAW size files. But if you want to convert to a DNG, you can do that. Here's the information that you do. I don't touch it, so I'm not going to worry about it. Interface just the look. I don't have anything changed on here. Next we have performance, and I have it set up as auto. All right. Right here we have camera settings. So cache is important. This is why we don't want to save our photos to our internal hard drive. We need that space for these programs to work, and you'll fill up an SSD on today's computers really fastly. The best thing you can do is get an external SSD and save all of your images there. All right, you can even allocate the cache to go there. So right now mine's going to this location. You can change the size if you want. Everything else, however, is just the default, so we're going to leave that. Right here we have Lightroom Sync, nothing has changed. We have the display and network, nothing has changed. So we can simply click out of that and we are good to go. Hey, if you're looking for something new to wear, I have a company called T-Lab Designs where I design custom t-shirts and apparel. We make stuff for adults and children. So right up here we have the navigator. We do not have any images on the computer yet, so it shows up as blank, but when we get one, you'll see a little image there. Here is the catalog, okay, and this is where the information is going to go when we start importing images. So we have all photographs, all sync photographs, a quick collection, and a previous import. If we want to just simply navigate to a folder on a specific hard drive, we could use that. We have something right here called collections. Down here we have collections. We have two different types of collections, just like a manual one and then an automated one. And collections are this. Think if you have a pet and you have this pet dog named Fred and you take his picture every single week and you want to make a calendar at the end of the year. So if you had to navigate through all your images through a whole year, you'd have to click on all these different folders most likely. That could take forever. So what you can do is just put Fred in there and all the good images, just drop them into the collection and it would be a central location where everything would be housed. This does not move the photos to a folder. All right, collections just remember where the photos are located. So once again, if you move your images, it's not going to be able to find them. It will show you the preview, but it will not let you edit the photo. All right, publish services is just like sending it to different locations. In this case, I don't have anything set up. Up here, we have the library. The library is simply a browser. It's a way to look at your images. We will see that here in a second. Next, we have the develop module. We don't have a photo, but you can see this is what Adobe Camera Raw looks like. This is where we're going to edit and process that raw photo. Right here, we have map. I've never ever used it. Like if you travel the world and you wanted to locate where you took all the different photos, you could do that right here in the map. We have book. So this is just a publishing service used by Adobe. It hasn't changed in years. It's probably not the greatest one to use. I've never used it, but it's a way to make your own book and send it out to somewhere. I have no idea where the somewhere is. Oop, it says send book to Blurb. So if you want to make a book on Blurb, you can do that. Next, we have slideshow. It's just a very basic slideshow creator. I'm sure it works great. I've never used it. I would most likely use Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere. If we want to print our image, we can go to print. And if we want to create a web page, you can create a web page here. Look, this is like a web page from 25 years ago. It is really archaic. This is not something that you're ever going to use. I doubt they've probably updated it. I haven't used it in so many years because, yeah, it's not really the greatest thing to use. All right, all we're going to focus on in this course is the library and the develop module, so we're going to click back on over to library. So a couple of little things. You see this little arrow right there, all right? Guess what? There's a little arrow right there, and there's a little arrow right there. And there's a little arrow right there, okay? Those open and close things. So if I click on this little arrow right here, it closes that thing. So to get it to come up, if I hover over it, it appears. If I go away, it hides. Or I can click this and it shows all the time. Down here's your thumbnails. Once again, I could go away, it disappears. I go here, my thumbnails appear. It's just personal preference. So this one right here hides this one on the left, and this one right here hides and shows the one here on the right. All right. So our next step, as we can see right down here, we've got a little import button. I'm going to take a card, and I have no idea what's on this card. It's probably not anything interesting. And I'm simply just going to go ahead and insert this to the SD card reader on the back of my computer. When you do this, it is automatically, most likely, going to launch the import inside of Adobe Lightroom Classic if your program is open. So you can see right here, we got this new window. This is the import window. So right here, we've got all the different folders on my computer. What I want is this EOS digital card. That's my card. And a lot of times this will say no name for a lot of people. It just kind of depends. So we've got a few images of some caterpillars that I was taking a photo of and some out of focus photos. Yes, I took them on purpose. So I was using that for something else. All right, in general, all we need to know is these are our images. And if you look up here, we've got some different options. It says copy as DNG. So that's that digital negative. So if you wanted to convert, in my case, These are CR3 files. If I want to convert them from CR3 to DNG, I would copy as a DNG. Now what this means is we're copying them. We're going to take them from the card and put them in another location. Then we have copy here, then we have move, and we have add. Because this is an SD card, it's not giving us those two options. So if you already had a folder with a bunch of images on an external drive, you really wouldn't need to do this because they're already on an external drive. You can simply add them to your catalog, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to simply just leave it into copy. The next thing that we have down here is just some windows. So we are in grid view right here. I could click on this and it would just show one photo, but we're going to go to grid photos. I can take this little slider and go this way and this way to make them bigger or smaller, whatever makes me the happiest. However, I don't edit my photos at this time. When I have a card, I just download everything that's on it. All right, I do not save my images from one shoot to another. So what I took here is all I took, and that's what's going to be on this card. So I have my choice. I can uncheck everything. Now nothing is going to be imported, or I can hit check all. Everything is going to be imported. I can also hit uncheck all, and then I can just simply click one, all right, and you have your option. I'm going to use the command that's most likely the control on a PC, and anything that I would select is going to be highlighted. However, these are not going to be imported yet because you need to go up to one of the boxes and click it, and then it gives a little tick mark. So now we're going to only import for images. You could click on an image and do a shift click, which is in between 2 points. So I click on the first image, I'll go here, hold shift, click there. It selects everything. Once again, you're going to go ahead and select that, and those are the images you're going to select. So for this series, all I'm going to do is just import those images because I don't really care what gets imported, and there's no sense in us waiting for me to download all those autofocus images, which are not going to make sense to most people. So normally I would just check everything, all right? So we're going to import all of our photos over. Right here we have the ability to sort. I'm doing it by capture time, but you can scroll through here and use whatever makes you the happiest. All right, so this is the important part. So up here, it's saying the photos are coming from the EOS digital card, and we're going to send them to here. So right here, I have my internal pictures folder on my hard drive. We are not gonna send the photos there because I told you once again, you don't want to fill up your computer because you're gonna end up with something called scratch disk full, which means the internal hard drive of your computer is full and it can't work. So don't save your images to your internal hard drive, save them to an external one. So I'm gonna go ahead and click that, and I'm gonna put other destination, and then we're gonna get the Finder window on a Mac, and I'm simply going to locate folder right here. I'm going to go ahead and hit choose because that's where I save all my working images, just to that hard drive. So we have the new location of where it's going to go. So the next step is super important. One of the biggest questions that I get from people is, I have all these photos and all these folders and I can't find anything and they're duplicates. Well, that's because you don't have a workflow. So what you need to do is create a workflow. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier, and it makes it easier to find images. This only takes a few seconds, and you're talking to a not highly organized person in real life, but this is something that I definitely do. So right up here, we've got build previews, and this is just the preview. How well a quality do you want? This is really going to be dependent on two things. The speed of your computer and what you want. So we can do minimal, where it's just like a low quality image, an embedded sidecar, standard, or the full size image. I'm just going to use standard because that works for me. We're going to go ahead and skip through this. You could tick this right here and save your images to a second location. So if you wanted to save them to one hard drive and then your backup hard drive at the same time, and yes, I think you should always back up everything that you do because the chances of losing it are good. I'm not going to do that. We're just going to unclick it, but you would just pick the second location and it would do that. You could also add your images to the collection, which was that little thing over here. In this case, yeah, I don't want to add every single image to a collection. All right, so the next step is right here. We're going to click rename files, and you can see I've got custom name selected. All right, and we're going to give it some custom text. I'm just going to call these fall. All right, caterpillar is too long for me to write, but what I'm doing is identifying these. So if we look right here, we've got that. That's what is in the folder. I'm never going to remember that number. I need these to be logical because remember, we have a cataloging system and it can find things. And if I just have this number, I don't know if I could remember that to have them find them. But if I do fall photos, these are all going to come up. So what's going to happen here is now this is going to be fall-CR3. The next one would be 1, the next one will be 2. So it's going to do sort of that order. So we're just going to put fall for there. And then the next step that we have down here is apply during import. And so it says develop settings. So you could do any of these presets. I don't suggest you do it because you could do it afterwards and it makes more sense, but you could apply a preset if you wanted. And the next thing we have is metadata. And I always suggest that everybody do this. So you're going to go down here, you're going to click on new, and you're going to create this. And this allows you to put information on every single image that you own, okay? So I'm just gonna put my initials and I can come in here and start looking at this. So let's see, normally I do actually fill all this stuff out. Headline, description writer, so I just put my initials because it's quicker for me to do that. Copyright, you would put that, right? Copyrighted, no right. So rights are usage terms, means that people get on the internet and try to steal your photos. You've put on here, they don't have the rights to use it. So you could add your URL, your website, all this stuff. Look, I do a lot of editorial work and I have to fill out most of this stuff. This is a great thing to understand or know. It just applies template of basic information to every single photo that you have. In this case, we'll hit cancel. And what we'll do is go back here and I'll just select the one they already created. If we want to add some keywords, we can add keywords there. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to click into subfolder. All right, it means into a subfolder of this folder up here. I just don't want to put every single image into that. There would be no organization. I want all these to live in a folder. So instead of the default, which says by date, do not use by date, you want to switch this to into one folder. So they're one folder. In this, I'm going to use the same as the rename, which was fall dash and then the date. So I use the full date. So it is 10-14 maybe dash 2025. Do not, you can use underscores, but don't use the backslash. See how it turned red right there? Because it doesn't like that. So back or forward slashes, don't use those because it makes it cranky. Just use a dash or an underscore. So you always use the date, and I always do what's a slug name of what the inside the folder, because it can find that stuff. All right, none of this other stuff I need to worry about. I can simply come down here where it says import and boom. And it's going to take those images. So you can see up here, we've got fall 1, fall 2, fall 3. It's renaming all those files exactly how I want. However, I don't need to see the thumbnails down here. So we're going to come here and select this window right here. And that's going to give us a little preview. So the first thing it does is copy the photos over and then it builds the previews. If you're really quick, you can go faster than the machine. So you might see it be out of focus for a second, but then it will build the preview. Well, that's it for how to import images into Adobe Lightroom Classic. It's super easy. The next step is I'm going to show you how to tag or call your images inside of Adobe Lightroom Classic, and then we're going to head on over and do some basic develop adjustments.